Pirates of the Caribbean is a franchise that first came out in 2003, where the pirate genre was believed to be dead. The first movie had a budget of $140 million, and the crazy part is that it was based on a simple theme park ride. It seemed doomed to fail before it even hit theaters. But it succeeded, and how it succeeded. And the reason, of course, Jack Sparrow. Sorry, I mean Captain Jack Sparrow. There are many theories and questions about Jack, and one of them is whether Captain Jack's actions in tough situations are the result of an underrated genius, or if he simply goes with the flow and gets lucky. Even characters in the film unsure.
Do you think he plans it all out? Or just makes it up as he goes along?
So, what do you think? Does he plan everything in advance, or does he just improvise and get lucky? Today, we will answer that question by exploring, is Jack really a genius? Just a heads up, this is all my theory, but feel free to listen and don't forget to subscribe. Right at the beginning of the first film, there's a scene where Jack gets captured after saving Elizabeth. You probably remember it. But let's take a closer look. When Jack shakes hands with Norrington, Norrington already has a good idea Jack is a pirate, or at least strongly suspects him. Jack, of course, knows that people will recognize him since he dealt with them before, as seen in a deleted scene.
Jack. I contracted you to deliver cargo on my behalf. You chose to liberate it.
People aren't cargo, mate.
This means, as soon as Jack realizes Norrington knows he's a pirate and he sees the chains, he already has a plan in mind. Jack deliberately provokes Norrington, which enrages him to his Jack with chains. And Jack later uses these very chains to take Elizabeth hostage and escape.
And I half expected it to be made of wood. You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
Commodore, I really must protest.
Carefully, Lieutenant.
Now the interesting part. My theory is that when Jack provoked Norrington, he already knew what would happen when he got put into chains. When the soldier put them on him, Jack is looking at Elizabeth the entire time and says, finally, when he finally gets his chains.
Finally.
And if you watch closely, you can see that Jack doesn't seem surprised at all. He looks as if he knew exactly what was going to happen. This clearly shows that he had a plan to escape with the chains in his head all along and wasn't just improvising after being captured. Even if he was lucky enough to not get hit by the soldiers, it's hard to do when moving as quickly as Jack did, he already thought about how to free himself. Another example, but now from a different film. In Pirates of the Caribbean, at World's End, Jack makes some sort of deal with Cutler Beckett after being captured, but Jack manages to escape in a very interesting way. He uses the chaos of an attack, runs to a cannon, and literally catapults himself back onto the Black Pearl, while also managing to destroy the mast of Beckett's ship, which allows the Black Pearl to escape. At first, this seems like sheer luck, but if you look closer, we see something interesting. How did Jack destroy the mast? Right, he loaded a small figure of Cutler Beckett into the cannon and shot it straight at the mast. At first, this figure seems insignificant as Jack catapults himself into the air, but later it becomes clear how important it was, because breaking the mast stops Beckett's ship and let the Black Pearl flee. You could think it was pure coincidence that Jack used the figure to hit the mast, but if you rewind a few scenes, it becomes clear that Jack had picked up this figurine much earlier during his negotiation with Beckett. This scene might seem minor at first, but in the context of what happens later, it becomes incredibly important. Now, there are two possibilities. Either Jack just randomly picked up the figurine, pulled it out of his pocket and fired it perfectly by chance, or he already had a plan to escape when he took the figurine. I lean toward the latter. It may seem crazy and look like sheer luck, but that's precisely the charm of Jack Sparrow. As he himself says,
You're mad.
Thank goodness for that, because if I wasn't, this would probably never work.
that shows that Jack isn't just acting randomly, he's making a decision based on a higher logic that only he understands. Many of his actions appear chaotic, but there's always a deeper plan behind them that only becomes clear later. And to back up my theory further, I will now play a clip that comes right after this scene.
Do you think he plans it all out? Or just makes it up as he goes along?
So, even the characters in the movie ask this very question, confirming that Jack is not simply the chaotic lucky charm, he has it all under control, even if it looks like he's improvising. There are plenty of examples, which I think I don't need to list, to prove that Jack is a genius, but in conclusion, in the first films, Jack analyzes every situation extremely well and then comes up with an almost perfect plan. He consciously plays the lucky fool to execute his plans and then plays it off more simply in the manner of Jack Sparrow. He's incredibly adaptable and, without a doubt, a genius. But here's the problem, and maybe you've already heard it. I'm only talking about the first films, and not Dead Man Tell No Tales. I'll leave out the fourth film, but Dead Man Tell No Tales is also part of the franchise and has a significant impact on Jack's character, which I have to alert. In this film, Jack is portrayed in a completely different way. Suddenly, he feels almost like an imposter Jack, who is no longer the genius we know from the first films. There's an excellent video that goes into detail about this change in Jack's character, and because of that, I keep it brief from here. But the difference in Dead Man Tell No Tales is obvious and worth discussing. At the start of the film, we quickly see a chaotic robbery attempt. Jack and his crew try to steal a bank by dragging it through the town. Everything appears very disorganized. Jack gets tied by one leg to a rope and is almost dragged through the whole city. Interestingly, despite being shot at by trained soldiers, Jack isn't hit. In the first film, Jack was moving quickly, which might explain why he wasn't hit. But here, he simply lies on the ground and none of the shots connect, which feels questionable considering the skill of the soldiers. But let's set that aside. In the beginning of the robbery, even Jack says that this wasn't part of the plan, indicating he doesn't really know what he's doing.
That was not part of the plan.
At the end of the robbery, the crew successfully steals the bank, but instead of finding money, Jack finds only a single coin, which Jack quietly pockets. This scene portrays a Jack Sparrow who appears entirely disorientated and almost if he has no plan at all. Here's my issue with this scene. Jack seems completely different. He's clearly drunk, even asleep at the beginning, and things fall apart. This wouldn't have happened to the Jack from the first 3 films, even if he was occasionally drunk. He was always clear-headed and had a plan. But here, he's just a stumbling, bumbling pirate, which is why he often referred to as the imposter Jack. He doesn't feel like his former self. This new version of Jack persists throughout most of the film. It almost feels like as if Jack is more of a side character here, and if Disney doesn't like Jack Sparrow anymore, or perhaps specifically doesn't like Johnny Depp anymore. Even when Jack is about to be executed, it seems like pure luck saves him, and that's something he can't control. But if you want to know more, I really recommend watching this video, which makes some excellent points. So here is the big question: is Jack Sparrow really a genius, as we've seen in the first films, or does the 5th film turn him into a lucky, drunken pirate? Of course not. But let me explain. For me, Jack Sparrow will always be the pirate from the first 3 films, maybe the 4th as well. The Jack from the 5th film isn't relevant to me. Sure, he has some moments, like the opening scene, but the imposter Jack moments dominate. We've seen Disney destroy beloved characters in the past, like Luke Skywalker, but that's a different discussion. I think they may have wanted to put Jack in the background due to issues with Johnny Depp, which led to Jack feeling more like a side character. Maybe they tried something new, which obviously didn't work. Perhaps maybe Jack changed drastically between the 4th and 5th film. Maybe something happened that we weren't told about, which could also explain the stark difference between flashback Jack and the current imposter Jack. What do you think? For me, Jack remains the greatest pirate I've ever seen. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.